One thing that's been bugging me in the industry is the preference for data recovery companies to do off-chip recoveries instead of repairing physical damage to the device. Off-chip recoveries involve physically removing the memory chip storing your data, reading it using a NAND reader, and then using emulation software to extract your data. NAND flash recovery used to be a mystery to all but a few data recovery companies around the world. With the growing demand for flash recovery, a few software companies came out and developed off-chip data recovery solutions. The companies marketing these data recovery solutions don't try to emphasize their time on repairing physical damage as much as they do promoting features of their software. And data recovery companies generally like off-chip recoveries because they can charge more to do them. There's some advantages to using off-chip recovery software, like not needing to have a large donor database. However, there are many challenges reading new memory chips that aren't supported by these devices, as well as the software emulators which can't properly emulate the controllers or emulate them at all. The general philosophy with off-chip recovery is that some of your data is better than none of your data. For me, off-chip recoveries are a last resort because the outcomes aren't as good as if you temporarily repaired the drive and got it working again. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. All right, so here's a recovery that I did where when you plug the drive into the computer, it would say that the flash drive had malfunctioned. In this case, it just happened to be a bad controller, and I had a donor controller that I was able to put on and recover a perfect image of the data. To go the off-chip route, this is a read of the flash memory chip, and I want to show you how the quality differed from having a perfect recovery to having a not so great recovery. So the first thing about this recovery is there isn't a ton of data, which makes it a little bit more difficult to recover the information. With modern flash drives, they use what's called XOR encryption. And what that does is it randomizes the data a little bit, so that way there's less of an error rate, meaning the memory chip lasts longer. On this controller, for instance, it's made by Phison. There are two different XOR encryption keys. One is used for the bulk of the data, so let's say committed blocks or blocks that haven't been used in a while. So think of it like you just copied all your pictures over and now you're working on a Word document. All those pictures get committed, meaning that since you're not using them frequently, they're stored in a different part of the flash drive versus a document where you're constantly modifying it. So in this case, the committed information is stored with one XOR key, and that XOR key is known. So if we go to assemble the image, we'll see that for the most part we got everything, but we have some red markers over here, and but for the most part everything was recovered. If we want to check quality of the recovery, we can see over here that it says that there were only 2 bad directories, but if we go a bit further, we'll find out there are actually more than 2. So there are a few options. I mean, we can try doing a file system recovery, but it's kind of like then the end user has to put everything back together, and it doesn't necessarily look fantastic. So the reason why you have this inconsistency is because there wasn't a lot of data on the drive, and this information didn't get committed to those full blocks. And since it's also a lot of documents and other stuff. Now here's my gripe. These folders over here and these files over here are perfectly recoverable. So my issue is by doing an off-chip recovery, I would lose these 2 folders over here as well as all these files over here. Inside these folders, though, there were a whole bunch of other folders. So it's really more than just those 2 folders that I would have lost. Basically, it's because the software can't emulate the controller 100%, and because of that, you can't get all the data, and that's why I say there's this mentality of most of your data is better than none of your data. And if another company had looked at it and said, hey, we need to do an off-chip recovery, they would have run into the same problem. versus if they had just gone the extra step and replaced the controller. So in this case, we were able to get a perfect recovery.